All right, time to talk Top Gun Maverick. First Top Gun came out in 1986. Almost 40 years later, right? No. 36. Yeah, almost 40 years later.
Yeah, over 30, yeah.
A lot of people returning, some not, some in very cool and emotional cameos, and we'll get to that in a second. We'll do our spoiler review after we give our non-spoiler scores here. But Top Gun Maverick, after more than 30 years of service as one of the Navy's top aviators, Pete Mitchell's where he belongs, pushing the envelope as a courageous test pilot and dodging the advancement in rank that would ground him, which is essentially, I guess, the very blanket description of how it all starts out. You know, it's very newer tech, newer ships, newer, uses for the Navy for the United States. And that's kind of how you figured it would start if you didn't know it already. And then it's kind of going, it's like a Back to the Roots movie, right? Mm-hmm. It's like somebody said, I saw it online. They're like, it's like the guy who has to go back home and coach the local football team, basically.
It's Emilio Estevez.
Yeah. You have a good mix of new and old. We'll talk about we don't have to talk about the about the cameo and stuff. Yeah, we'll get that when I feel like I just kind of ruined it, but we'll talk about that when we go further into into spoilers. But two of the newer characters that we get in this are played. A couple of characters. John Hamm is in the movie. Miles Teller in the movie in a very prominent role.
Ed Harris.
Yeah. Glenn Powell. Ed Harris is typecast, but also it always works.
But he's always good, right? Yeah. Jeffrey Wright's like that too, where he shows up. He's the same guy in every movie, but he's always so cool. Yeah.
Kendrick has a good Jeffrey Wright impression.
We have to catch the bat, Batman. I don't know why we were catching the bat, but
Ed Harris in his role, perfect. Just a piece of shit.
Really quick. I thought for a second he was playing the same admiral from the first Top Gun, the one that's played by like the principal from
Tom Skerritt.
No. I thought he was playing like the admiral that busts his ass in the beginning of the first Top Gun, which is like, I believe the guy who plays the principal in Back to the Future, like the bald guy or something. But I looked it up later.
Tom Skerritt, I think.
No, bald guy from Tom Skerritt is not the principal in Back to the Future, right? It's some.
Okay.
I'm completely fine. You're right.
Yeah. No, no. That actor is not the same one.
Yeah, you're right. God damn it.
He's still alive, 90 years old.
Jesus, yes.
All the Back to the Futures were on TV the other night. I watched all of them. Strickland. No, so you thought it was the same character?
Yeah, because they're both bald and angry and hate Maverick.
Yeah. This movie is a big budget, badass, insane fucking movie. I will say, I would be careful if you have not seen it yet to not get drawn in too much of the hype, because I'm not saying it's going to let you down, but I think Everything Everywhere All at Once was a victim of that recently. I think right now you're getting a lot of movies are coming out and they're getting a lot of hype, and people see them and are like, good, but I didn't, wasn't greatest thing of all time. Like, I think if you go into this movie without pre-expectations and you go into it without having somebody overhype you are going to absolutely fucking love this movie. And I think in the worst, you're going to think it's really good and awesome. Like, I truly don't know anyone that I know personally who's going to go see this and tell me they didn't love it. I like the first Top Gun. I'm not a huge fan, though. Never have been. 80 for me. Kenjack, you gave the original Top Gun an 82. I think this movie's better. I think it's a better movie. I think this movie, there's things that you see in this movie. If you could see it in Dolby or real IMAX, remember most IMAX in the country, not real IMAXs. There's things you see in this movie that blow your fucking dick off. Like, just so fucking cool, man. And I did not have a chance to see it again in IMAX weekend, and I will be seeing it again in IMAX because it's like I said with Dune, and I'm going to say Mission Impossible. I did a Mission Impossible. Like, I will see this movie probably 2 more times in theaters. It is just mind-blowing to watch. And if you just listen to our interview, they talked about the training, and if you've seen behind the scenes, like, the training that they went through for this movie to make it look as real as possible is fucking insane, by the way. Tom Cruise is an insane person. But holy fuck, this is like the most, and I mean this is a compliment, textbook, big action blockbuster. The end of this movie is fucking bananas. It is just bananas. And some of the shots of these these fighter jets and these ships like close to the ground in like low altitude. It's just nuts. I was speechless for parts of this movie because of the visually the way this movie was shot and what they're able to do. I just what have we seen like this? It's insane. Except maybe Mission Impossible, right? Like that's like what I can best compare it to, because Tom Cruise is a madman and we just said in our interview, like he is truly the last real like non-comic based action movie, like big budget blockbuster action movie star. And this movie fucking rules. This movie rules. It's a 90 out of 100 for me. I fucking loved Top Gun Maverick, and I cannot wait. I'm telling you, if you can see it in IMAX or Dolby, make sure it's a real IMAX, run, because it's worth it. It really is. Ken Jack.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with a lot of what you said. I think that Tom Cruise is like not even just like the action star, but he's like the action savior, because he's like seemingly the only person in Hollywood that realizes what it takes to make a true action movie, and the only person that's like really dedicated enough to like seeing it through, like the rigors he puts his body through, the rigors he puts his mind through, like the rigors he puts the other, and like the trust he puts in the people around him with this stuff. Like it's not something any other actor I think is capable of doing. And I think that dedication combined with this movie's like perfect blend, I would say, of a couple things: a perfect blend of nostalgia and standalone entertainment. Like, and I think I can say that comfortably because I watched it and I've seen the first Top Gun a few times. Like, I agree with you in that. Like, I'm not a mega fan of it or anything like that. I like it for nostalgia purposes. So I went into it with knowing all the stuff about Top Gun. I loved it, and I watched it I went to the screener with my girlfriend who's never seen Top Gun. She also loved it. She didn't, and nothing that was a callback to the original movie at all was like distracting enough to like derail the viewing experience. I think that blend, which you talk about all the time whenever you're doing like a late sequel, late reboot, whatever, like that blend I think was perfect. I think the blend of CGI to practical, which we talked about again in that last interview, was also perfect. Like a lot of those cockpit scenes, like they were saying, was real. Like it just makes you feel like you're part of the action. It's just like it really is just an experience that you're not going to find in basically any other movie that you're going to watch over the next like 5 to 10 years. It's insane. And I just think that, like you said, Jeff, one of the best third acts I think I've ever seen in an action movie, maybe ever. Like just nonstop, you're on the edge of your seat until literally the credits roll. It is one of the greatest experiences I've had in a movie in a long time. And I watched this like at a screener with like all the fucking nerds that review movies from like New York Times and all this shit. They're cheering, they're going nuts, they're laughing like crazy, they're going ballistic. Like that's how you really know like you got a great ass movie in your end. Like people were clapping at the end of it. I haven't seen people clap at a movie like in so long. And that's the type of emotion that this movie managed to bring out of people.
For non-comic, clap for me. Everything Ever All at Once, I got a little bit, but for like a full clap, it was Mission Impossible.
Yes.
That was the last non-comic or Star Warsy thing that got like yeah.
Dude, insanity. And I just think that like
99% audience rating on Rotten Tomatoes. That's
unsurprising. That's almost not surprising because like it is such an accessible movie for everyone. Like you don't need to be some giant Top Gun fan, some giant like aircraft or Air Force fan or fighter pilot fan or like fight fan, war movie fan. None of this shit. You could be a fan of any types of movies basically and come into this and get absolutely entertained to all hell. And I appreciate that because again, that's such a rare art form that I think Tom Cruise has mastered, which is making extremely entertaining movies. Even movies that like it's not his best movie. They are undeniably entertaining. Like fucking Valkyrie. That movie could have been boring as shit. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. He made it kind of interesting, kind of entertaining. Movies like fucking the Jack Reacher series. Those are two of the better action fucking movies over like the last like that little grouping of time, I would say. And like that's not that that's saying much because there wasn't like a ton of great ones outside of like the Wick franchises. But like he makes the things so entertaining and he has such a dedication to the audience and like making sure that his love for movies, which is fanatical, comes across screen and that like in a way that no other producer or any other figurehead in Hollywood can possibly do. Everyone else wants to do this all CGI. Everyone else wants to do this on behind a green screen. He's like, fuck no, we're getting up on those planes. We're flying around and we're going to make people feel like they're part of this. And I love that from Cruise. And I love that from the producers and the director, Kaczynski, and like all these guys, because it really comes across. You get a lot of great emotional moments as well. Perfect dosage of romance which could have been too much and fucked it up. I think that they did a great dosage of that. Awesome dosage of camaraderie. It's a great Dudes Rock feature for whatever that's worth. And it's like, I don't know, man. I enjoyed the hell of it. We'll get more into it with spoilers, but yeah, I'm a huge fan. 93 out of 100 for me.
All right. Well, I mean, this is typically the when Castellani the contrarian steps in, right? I'm glad you guys liked it. Guys, I think this is one of the best summer blockbusters of the last 20 years.
Really? What's now? I don't. Well, I can't even imagine what your score is going to be.
I fucking love this.
73. No, I'm fucking with you.
I love this movie so fucking much. I think it is one of the rare movies that absolutely belongs in theaters. I thought it was a fucking thrill ride from start to finish. It was perfectly paced. It was perfectly acted. The characters, I nearly. Again, this is, and people know I'm a big softie. And if you've been following me on Barstool or just on the internet for the last year, you know that I do this. When this movie ended, I had tears in my eyes because I was like, holy shit, hope. Movies can still be this cool. Like this movie was made with so much care, so much love. I saw this with my parents. The original Top Gun is like my mom's favorite movie ever. So I took them to see it. And they were holding the sides of their seats watching the last 45 minutes of this movie. I think this has to be, in terms of improving on the original, one of the greatest sequels that's ever been made ever. In every way, this is better than the original film. It has better characters, better acting, a better story. And yeah, you know what? Like I said this in the little mini review I did on Twitter. Tom Cruise is the only actor working right now who I think will die making a movie. Like he is such a certifiably insane person that
I bet he wants to.
Yeah,
no, I think you're right. I think
it's like his Warriors Valhalla death, basically.
Right. It's like he'll go to space, and there will be some accident when he's filming a movie. And like, you know, I don't want it to happen, but like, I appreciate the craft. I think this movie is freaking awesome. I have it in a 91. It's bizarre because this is back-to-back weeks now. We talked about it with Chip and Dale, where I was like, "Wow, what a surprise!"
By the way, I didn't answer, but Chip and Dale was awesome. By the way,
it was really good, right?
So
and I came out of that and said, "This is the most surprising movie I think I'm going to see this year." That prediction lasted a week. I have this in a 91. I think this is in its purest form what escapism, fun, summer blockbuster cinema should be. I adore this. I was stunned. I came out of this like for 2 straight days. I was scratching my head, being like, "Top Gun, Maverick, really?"
I know.
Like,
Which I'll say this too. I won't even pretend I thought this was ever going to be good.
I thought it had a chance to be okay, but not this good. Yeah, I'm with you.
I think it got hurt by the delay, and it wasn't a delay that it deserves to be criticized for. It was a fucking COVID delay, but. Like, I don't think there was any point that I thought this was going to be not just great, but good. Like, why would it be good? And like, I'm not a Miles Teller hater. Whiplash, I think, is one of the best movies I've ever seen in my life. So but like, I don't know, Miles Teller sometimes gets shit. Remember he did that interview and people kind of like crapped on him, and it kind of felt a little unfair because I guess he came off like a douche. I like Miles Teller personally. I always thought that was kind of bullshit.
Big Stoolie, so I got to give him.
Yeah, he's a big Barstool. I love Glenn Balls.
And yeah, I think Whiplash is the best movie of the last 10 years. So I gotta like.
He likes burger reviews. I like Miles Teller, but I think Miles Teller gets kind of a bad rap sometimes. I think I actually like Glenn Powell. Glenn Powell, though, I know him from Netflix movies. Like, I don't know, like there wasn't a lot of like
set it up.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of reasons for me to truly think this would just be good. And again, I like the original movie. I don't love it though. But this was, and spoiler alert now, you have the very emotional scene, the Val Kilmer scene.
Oh fuck.
Which is crazy how they did that and like how they went about that. I thought it worked perfectly. That's something that can ruin a movie. Like you can really ham it up. No pun intended with John Hamm being like I like John Hamm in the movie, by the way. I like his character. Jennifer Connelly, good. Like I just think, but that could have really derailed it. Like, and I always reference the Rogue One when you see R2 and 3PO to go back to Star Wars. Like, yeah, you can definitely overdo it with nostalgia in a way that's incredibly off-putting and revolting. It wasn't all. The story flowed well. I don't know. I thought it was. I thought this was such a like a bang up insane sequel. I like the Hangman Rooster back and forth stuff too. I thought those were good little side characters to go along with Maverick. I just think it was all like placed so perfectly together. And I don't think the beginning was slow by any means at all. Like, I think it's great. But I think like once you really start to reestablish in this world, it hits fucking beats. And again, that was my thing. How do they make this and not have it be stupid as fuck, right? Like, that really could have happened. It really could have been just dumb as shit.
I'm with you completely. You brought up, I go to talked about it on here a few months ago, was Ghostbusters Afterlife, which is a movie I think is good. Yeah. But when you get to that final act and it's just like these three geriatrics like playing dress up, and you're like, oh, this just doesn't like. This is not playing here. A part of it was, I think we all really liked the Val documentary. It made my top 10 list last year. I liked that movie quite a bit. And I thought the way that they brought him into this was so tastefully done. And I'll even say Tom Cruise is like, it's famous. Like, of course, he's a huge movie star and people talk about his ego. But at the same time, there was almost like a meta element to that scene where he was like, you know what? I know I'm almost 60 and I'm still able to do this, but I acknowledge the fact that, hey, I've been around a lot of people who aren't that fortunate. And that scene, like it really hit me way more than I expected to, because the first Top Gun is fine. It's whatever. Like it's product of its time. It's okay. But those moments, I'm like, wow, this is hitting more emotional beats than I ever expected that it would. And you get to the final 45 minutes, which is like this, which is such a thrill ride, completely. So yeah, I mean, I was floored by this. I mean, I think in terms of, since I've been doing this podcast with you guys, I think West Side Story is still the highest rated movie I've talked about. This one, this is like the movie that would have came out when I was like 13 that I would have thought was like the greatest thing ever. Like it made me, like, it warmed my heart being like, man, this is so like pure and awesome. And I think a 10-year-old can love this movie just as much as an 80-year-old can. It's what a summer movie should be. And I was just so like, I was so pleased with what it was. I thought it was amazing. Yeah.
I do want to talk about, because we're going to suck this movie's dick for like the next however many minutes that we talk about it. I do want to talk about two things that I think didn't totally land for me, I guess. One is that I think the dialogue was a little corny with any sort of technical, but at the same time, I think that was almost a homage to the original in a little bit of a sense, because that was the entire first movie. Was really corny. Tony Scott dialogue,
yes.
Which is it's like you watch it back and you're like, wow, yeah, that's tough. Which, by the way, I was reading some story about Tony Scott, like while they were filming on one of the aircraft carriers. Like he wanted to turn around and like get another shot of like turn the aircraft carrier around to get another shot of the sunset. And the aircraft, the what do you call it? The captain was like, yeah, it cost $25,000 to do that. And Tony wrote him a check and the check bounced, but they got the shot. So like, that's just Tony Scott, man. Like that was just him. But yeah, so beyond that, I think that one thing that would have made this movie better, like incrementally, was if they had swapped Miles Teller with Glenn Powell, because Powell is extremely nice looking. And I think, to me, I don't view him as an asshole. Teller, I view as a huge asshole. And partially, not really because of that stuff. I just think Teller is really good when he's like, he has good asshole energy. I think he would be a way better antagonist within that group.
I like that take. That's
fair. That's fair. And even in a Whiplash, as I brought up, is like probably my top three, one of my top three favorite movies ever. Andrew Neiman is an asshole. Andrew Neiman's a complete weirdo. Like, that's one of the things I like about that movie, is that as much of a prick as J.K. Simmons is, like, he claps back at him and, fuck you, Johnny Utah, turn my pages, bitch. He had like energy. I'm with you for the most part about the dialogue. I just, as much as I think a good script is so important, Top Gun is like, characters worked for me so much. Star Wars is like this too, where it becomes a thing where as long as the characters work and the story works, I'm willing to forgive a lot of the dialogue. Like one of the big examples I always use is, we talk about the Star Wars prequels and obviously the originals, but like the original Raimi Spider-Man has so much cornball, like cheesy dialogue in it, but I don't care because the characters work and the action works and the story works. So like, I'm with you completely on that complaint, but I think that that was minimized to me because of how good like the pacing and the story was. But I do think I do think a lot of people will probably agree with your take on that. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, that's partially just like I think again, not like a total homage to the original, but they kept the dialogue in keeping with that. If they totally changed it, I feel like we'd be a little bit more like I don't know, frustrated with that. In addition to that, to some of the other good things, I think like I mentioned before with the romance, I think that they did a really good job, like sort of making it a little more organic and like disarming the audience with like jokes about their age, because like that is something I went into this. I'm like, I might have to watch like old ass Tom Cruise like fucking shit, and like they had to like make the romance a little part of this, just like it was in the original. But like I think they did a good job of like giving it the appropriate touch of like funny, disarming humor about it, and like where they are in their lives and like where they thought they'd be and all that stuff. I think they did a great job. Jennifer Connelly, I thought, was awesome in that role. I think she fit perfectly. Everything in that bar, every scene in that bar was so great. Like that was, I think, just a great addition to this movie. And in addition to that, love the faceless and nameless enemy, which they obviously carried over from the first one. I like just being able to make it up in your own mind. I saw someone tweeting like, "Hey, you know that Paramount owns the rights to G.I. Joe. Just make it Cobra." And I was like, yeah. Like,
that'd be kind of funny.
Fold this in. And the last thing I think the big takeaway or note for me is like beyond the like when I left it, the only thing I wanted to talk about was the third act, right? Because it's so cool. But the opening like 20 minutes with the stealth fighter going Mach 10, that was awesome. That was so cool. And that looked great. That was acted great by Cruise and all the guys on the ground, including Bashir Salahuddin, who we interviewed. Like all the guys involved in that and were acting their asses off, and man, it just looked so cool and had you on the edge of your seat. And like the second, and that was great characterization for Maverick, who is a character we're familiar with, was when he gets to Mach 10 and he's like, "Oh, let's go a little bit more. We can go a little bit faster." Like, that's fucking Maverick. And him ejecting at Mach 10 and surviving is just, that's Maverick.
And you know what? One thing about this movie that I think is going to get overlooked, the punch-up dialogue, I actually thought was quite funny. One of the funnier lines that I remember is he crash lands, goes to like this diner. It's like movie, like script writing 101. And he gets the drink of water and he just goes, "Where am I?" And you have the kid in the diner who goes, "Earth." I'm like, that's like, there's a personality to this movie that I really did not expect. I loved it. Yeah.
I love the comment about the villain is a good one, by the way, too. And I'm gonna do another Star Wars comp, and it's something that'll always ring true with me, and it's something that I feel like is not done enough in certain scenarios. Walter Cronkite in the Star Wars documentary Empire of Dreams mentions it. He's like, the thing about Star Wars is that it could be anybody. It's not Americans. It's not the Chinese. It's not
Russia or whatever.
Russia. Yeah. It's just anything. It's any species, any people, and the way it translates. So, I mean, again, that's a little different. I know, Russia's not going to pull up Top Gun and be like, "Let's fucking go." Like, they're not going to, like, I get that. Like, that's not going to be but there is something to what you said. It's like faceless antagonist name. Like, it does make it kind of, I don't know, it gives it a different vibe and feel that I think is, I think it should be deployed more and more. The best thing that I can honestly say about this movie is kind of what you said, Chris, is that you said your parents were like kind of edge of their, like, this movie really does, and they talked about it in our interview, Charles Parnell and Bashir Salahuddin. They said, like, you're in this theater and you're watching this, and because it's so real, the way it was filmed, you literally feel like you're in those fucking fighters. Like, it just. I know that you don't have to have real shit to make stuff look real in movies. Like when they fly the Falcon, when they fly, any ship in like a space, like you feel like you're in it. But this just something was different about it, and you found yourself edge of your seating more and more throughout because your adrenaline was pumping. Like those final 30, 40, that last act is just truly one of the greatest action like third acts you'll ever see. It's just fucking nuts. You feel it. You feel it. And if the movie had not been great, you still would have said great things about it. But the fact that it's attached to a really awesome fucking movie, I just can't say it's odd to say a surprise because it's a Tom Cruise blockbuster, but it is a surprise. Like I was surprised at how good this movie was. It fucking rules.
I mean, the Mummy does exist, so it's hard for me to be like,
that's fair.
To say that it was a guaranteed thing. But you're right. I mean, I think in general, I think we get too caught up, and I do too, in, oh, this is CG, like, people talking like as if it's a bad thing. Like, CG is a necessary thing in films, but at the same time, when you have an actor who's crazy enough to fly a fucking jet throughout the movie, it does stand out. Like, when watching this, it's such a thrill ride. The way that they used those practical effects and like the amount of physical exertion they had to go through, it does add to the experience. Like, with any other actor in the lead role, I don't know if this would have worked the way it did, because it just would have been, it'd have been fucking Red Tails. It would have just been a bunch of CG. It would have just been CG fighter pilots, and like, it would have looked okay. But the way it's done here, I think it's brilliant.
I think the comment I always go to, I think it was Sam Hargrave who told us this, but he's like, I think the ideal blend always with CGI to practical is like, use if you can afford it, like, use practical whenever you possibly can, unless it's physically, you have to do something that's physically impossible. Right. And I think that's something that this movie really held to, where they're like, if there's something that we can, like, we have this massive budget, we have $150 million to play with. If there's anything that we can do physically and show that on camera, let's do it. Like, we can't have a fucking 5th gen fighter blow up in midair. Like, that's just not going to happen. Yeah, you CGI the hell out of that. But like, anything practical, make it practical. And that gives you like a deeper sense of the experience, because like, it is like so much more tangible and real, because like, you can imagine a real human being in that fighter pilot and doing that stuff. Like, when you're watching Star Wars or whatever, you're watching like CGI stuff, it turns it into like a sort of a different thing, where it's like, well, I wouldn't be that guy because that's not real. Like, your brain just, I feel like, subconsciously tells you that is not really happening. But when you're seeing these physical jets flying and shit, it just feels more real. It's like watching a really good cell in wrestling, and like, just like letting yourself get lost in it. And I love that. And that's something that Tom Cruise, again, has always been very dedicated to. And the guy's just the king of late sequels. Look at Mission Impossible Fallout, dude. Like, that's like one of the best action movies ever made. It's just like, what, the 6th movie in the franchise, 7th movie in the franchise? That's insane.
The one question that I don't think has been talked about yet that I'm going to ask you guys, I think this movie is already a massive hit, and it's going to continue to be a massive hit because it's awesome. Would you want to see number 3? Or do you feel like this is kind of a suitable, finish to the Top Gun series? Because I feel like we're going to end up getting 3. I think this thing is going to be an $800 million movie worldwide, and those movies get sequels.
Yeah, I think that it would really be up to, like, the decision, I think, is going to rest on Cruise.
That's true.
Like, you know what I mean? And like, he has more than enough money to just say, I don't want to make this. And if he doesn't want to make it, it's not going to happen. Or if it happens, people will be really mad, and it'll probably not be that good. But I don't know. I want to see, it's weird. I want to see another fighter pilot movie that does the exact same stuff Top Gun does. But at the same time, I like the way that this movie ended, and don't think it necessarily needs to have another movie. So like, it's weird. I'm saying, like, a little bit of a conundrum. Like, I want Top Gun 3. I just don't want it to be Top Gun 3.
You're right. There's like a Toy Story. This is weird. There's like a Toy Story 3 element to this, where it's like, you could technically make another one, but I love the way this thing wraps up so much, where it's like, I feel like the arc is concluded with him kind of ultimately coming to terms with Goose's death and moving on with his life. But considering how good this was, if you bring back the whole gang, I'd see another one easily. Yeah.
I don't. That is tough for me. I don't know. I would lean, honestly, no.
I would too, to be honest. But yeah.
Yeah, I would honestly lean no, just because I guess my thing is that, I don't know, maybe, is that dumb though? That might be dumb, because on one hand, yeah, I think they kind of have a nice rap with this. However, would you have said the same thing about Mission Impossible, maybe, right? And they keep making them, they're fucking awesome. So maybe not. Maybe make another one. I don't know. And it's evergreen, right? The villains are evergreen, or the protagonist is evergreen. Characters are young. Cruise can still do it. So I don't know. Maybe maybe on my hat, my that's a bad opinion. I don't know. By the way,
it's hard because, like, I don't know where, like, the stakes were so perfect in this, and this, like, I would say, like, the conclusion of that third act was so perfect, where it's like, yeah, he got shot down, and then Miles Teller got shot, Rooster got shot down, then they had to rescue each other, and then they made it back flying out of another plane. Like, how do you top this? How do you top Top Gun, Maverick? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer is.
Maybe the answer is no. Right? Maybe because right, there is a finality to this that there hasn't been with Mission Impossible. There never is a finale of Mission Impossible. It's always a cliffhanger. Not a cliffhanger, but it's always it's they're in Seattle on the dock, right? Then the next, there is always a little bit of like continuation to them. So maybe it's a bit different. Maybe it's a bit different. I will say I did not get a chance to talk about the Mission Impossible trailer on this show. Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, so I tweeted that it's my most anticipated movie, and someone's like, "What about Dune?" That's a tough one for me. I will put this over Dune a little bit. I'm recently.
Wow, really?
Fan. I'm recently a huge Dune fan, like very recently. Mission Impossible, though, like that's part of this podcast history is how hyped we were for that movie. So I think that I would slide Dead Reckoning just a hair above Dune Part 2, and also just like. I don't know. That trailer was awesome. I'm very, very fucking excited for that movie.
What can I ask? Because I saw your tweets. There was a leaked, like unfinished version of that trailer?
No, so that's just a very early trailer. There's not a lot of audio. I don't think there's a lot of mixed down audio for that movie.
Okay.
There was a leak. The trailer leaked.
Okay.
But I think it is too. Remember when the Mummy trailer leaked and the audio wasn't finished?
Where it's just Tom Cruise going,
yeah, that was insane. Anyway, 90 from you, Chris, right?
91, actually.
91, 90 from me, 93 from Ken Jack. That's one of the highest that we've done since Chris has joined us. That's my third 90 of the year. The Batman 93, Everything Everywhere All at Once, still at a 96 out of 100. Ken Jack, for you, I think that's probably third or fourth as well.
Yeah, roughly around there.
Yeah, that for you, that would be fifth, actually, with X, The Northman, The Batman, and then Everything Everywhere All at Once. This would be your second ranked movie.
If this was grading purely on entertainment aspect, it was number one overall. But
absolutely,
my rating for the Batman has gone up. I would probably put this neck and neck with the Batman at this point, but man, I'm so enthusiastic about it just because it was such a surprise.
Yeah. It's awesome. I mean, again, I can't stress it enough. If you can see it in the biggest, best format possible, you just got to do it. And if you've seen it already and you haven't seen it in a big format, I would go see it again. I really would. I would highly suggest that. I know those tickets are not cheap, but maybe if you have like the AMC thing or something like that, you can do that.